Test 1, 2, 3. Jetzt kommen die wichtigsten Sachen des Lebens. This is me, 6 years old, hippie jumping my way into history. I'm born in Göss in Austria, where Gösser beer comes from. My parents are both from there, but my dad had immigrated to Canada and the US when he was young because he was a professional skier and then ski instructor. So my parents got divorced when I was about 8, and right before I was 10, my mom decided to move back to Austria. And when I was 17, my dad was still living in the States. Technically, my dad was living in a camper most of his life. I told him that I want to go to the US and I'm just going to become a professional skateboarder. He kind of got an apartment. I started going to high school and I started to skate for Millennium Skateboards because I had met Al Partnan and Peter Hewitt in San Diego. And Al was just starting Millennium Skateboards, so he started to give me boards and $200 a month. Of course, in my eyes, I was like, well, I made it. At one point, my friend Gernot Kienost, photographer from Linz, was visiting me, and we went out to shoot photos, and I tried the Smith grinder rail and clipped on the way up to the rail and flew down to my face down the 13 stairs and knocked out my 2 front teeth. Not having insurance, I decided to come back to Europe. Got a job, was working at the tobacco factory, and was just skating and felt like, well, it was cool. I got sponsored, I was in the US, things are fine, but life goes on. And one day I got a phone call from Julian Dykmans. He told me they're starting Antis skateboards, so decided to ride for Antis, and yeah, then everything kind of started up again. Got sponsored by iPath shoes, and that's how I ended up moving to Lyon, France. Basically always just traveling a lot because being on tour and skateboarding was just the best way for me to skate. When I'm home, even if I'd live in Barcelona or Lyon, where there's good spots, I was never a very productive person. In Barcelona, I was living with my good friends from Austria who were all skaters, but not like pros or trying to be pros even. So it was more just go skate, have fun, and not film. We just drink and be idiots, smoke weed, and skate all day. But I mean, that was basically like the dream come true. I never skated a contest sober in my life because I'd be way too nervous. It makes me super uncomfortable to skate in front of people, like a demo. Oh my God. So then you just get a little bit drunk and a little bit high, and then you're like, whatever, just try to be in your zone, and then you end up being European champion. I mean, European champion, let's be honest, that's just what they called that one contest. And yeah, we went there with the whole Antis crew and just did our thing. The weather was shitty, it was raining all the time. And just, yeah, you know, hang out, smoke some weed, drink a beer, skate your run or your heat, and then, oh, you're in the next round, okay. I did want to like win money at contests. My teeth were still not completely fixed, so I knew I had to like go to the dentist soon, and it would cost me 2,000 or 3,000 euros to fix the teeth properly. So contests were the easiest way to try to like get that money. Kept making it to the next rounds in Basel, and everybody like Hugo and those people like were like, come on, let's go home to Lyon, like the weather's so shit here, fuck this contest. And I was like, yeah, but skated the finals, and I was like, cool, we're done. We were already like packing up and leaving, and then they were like, so we have the super final. Still remember it, I had my backpack and my stuff and my beer, and I was just like, heard my name, and it was like, no, like, and yeah, so I became European champion. I won 3,500 euros and an iPod. So I was like stoked because I was like, I'm gonna get my teeth fixed. And then Eurosport tried to interview me. Started out really bad because the interviewer lady was like, how about you give us a yoo-hoo, I won scream. I was like, no. And she was like, so what are you gonna do with the prize money? And since she started with that stupid question, my answer was like, coke and hookers. And walked away. And I remember for my dad being a regular sports person, he was like, my son is European champion. He was super proud, obviously, which was cool. But he told me he saw like the little thing in Eurosport, and then he said like, but there was no interview of you. They interviewed the 3rd place and 2nd place. And I was like, well, He would always find like really weird spots and just be like, Steve, we gotta go there. It's gonna be epic. And sometimes when I'd see the spot, I'd just be like, what the hell is this man thinking? This is gonna be so shit. But they always ended up being good. I have to give it to him. This is the photo he shot. This is portrait style. He finds some weird metal things and Fred's like, oh my god, Steve, this is gonna be fucking amazing. This is me shooting a photo of Fred where Fred is posing what he wants me to do. And obviously, Fred's photo ends up being way better. I'm better at backside nose grinds than Fred, but Fred's better at Photoshop than me. I think this is the best photo that he shot of me outside of Lyon, somewhere on the highway. He got me at like 7 in the morning to go there. And it was cold and shitty. But he was like, no, the gray light is so perfect. And the ground was like shit. And literally when I got there, I was like, this is the stupidest idea ever. Like, I don't know why I'm here. I was almost angry at Fred, to be honest. And then he's like, oh, frontside crooks is the trick. This is what you need to do. I'm like, oh, I'm so bad at frontside crooks. So I did a really, really horrible front crooks. I somehow made one. At this one point, I started to ride for Gravis, and they asked me to ride for Analog as well, which was actually a hard decision because I was riding for WSC, and those were really good friends, and they were really cool, and it was super fun, like going to Stockholm a lot, my modeling gigs. Me in a shop window, right? WSC catalog shoot. Ali Boulala was kind of skating for them as well. We were smoking a bunch of hash in the van on the way to the photo shoot, and the makeup lady complained later that she was too stoned to do her job good. The first Gravis trips, Burton kind of put us up in like 5-star hotels. We always ended up getting in trouble, obviously, because we'd be just drinking at the bar, putting it all on the room.
All the room service, bring us another bottle.
At one point in Budapest, just the side costs of like the 3 days were like $9,000. So after that hotel, we were not in the super fancy hotels anymore. Gravis had the great idea to send us on a 9-day trip on the East Coast to promote Arto's shoe coming out in the wintertime. Do signings, do some random demos at a shitty indoor park. The people are stoked you're there, you do your signing and it starts off okay. And the first night, of course, let's have a great party because for them, it's you're there once. So you're having fun and you'll get drunk. And then the next morning you have to wake up at 6 and go to the airport and fly to the next city and do the same thing again. It becomes like difficult because you're going to start skating shittier and shittier at every demo because your hangover is getting worse. Because every night, we'll take you to the best restaurant and show you the coolest bar. You totally lose it in the sense of like, I really went to the room from the night before, the number with the key card from the hotel the night before. Because you're just like, oh, okay, we're in Charlotte today? Like, oh man, that made me feel like some rock band situation. Being in LA a lot for like Analog and Gravis days, you realize later how depressing it was, what a shitty place it is, at least for me. Some people love it there, but to me it's probably one of the worst places as a skateboarder to be because there's no skateboarding. It's just practice to try to get a trick somewhere where everybody's done 100 tricks already and you probably only get 5 minutes. If I had footage, it's always like ditches. Because it's the only place you can kind of like go skate, have fun, and maybe even drink a beer without getting into trouble. The first times I actually stayed at Dylan's apartment, some people would sometimes ask me like, how are you friends with Dylan? He's like this fashion dude. I'm quite the opposite, but at the end of the day, he's just a skate rat, wants to skate, and like he's looking out for whatever, an hour or two, telling me it's good to go or not. So that's why we're friends. Like, he looks at fashion magazines while he's in the van. I don't, but I don't care. Like, I'll make jokes about it with him, like in the way he will make jokes about me. That's like part of being friends. You don't have to be exactly the same. But mainly I was at Arto's because that was right when he got that house where he built the pool in the backyard. And that was at least the only thing that kept me sane, I would say, because I had a really nice place to stay. Thanks to Arto, it was cool, and he always understood that, so he would always try to do missions. We'd go to ditches somewhere and camp, and that was actually pretty fun because we would just convince Gravis to give us some kind of budget, which was easy because Arto is Arto, so he could get some kind of budget. We'd load up his truck with camping gear and like take around Alan, and we'd promise them we're gonna come back with an ad and some thing, and we would get it done, but mainly we would just go camp and have a lot of fun in the desert. Cooking sausages and being drunk idiots, basically.
Hey, we need grip on the nose.
You're gonna be fucking ripping, mate.
Try to put more grip on the nose if you can.
So that was also one of the reasons why I never moved back to the States, even though Gravis would have loved me to move there. Or like, oh, you would get paid more if you're in the States and things like that. But at least I was smart enough to realize like that would not be good for me. I would have money, but I would have been unhappy. The most I ever got paid was $1,000 from Gravis and $1,000 from Analog. So I was making $2,000 a month. That's great because most of the time I was living somewhere and I didn't pay taxes. Barcelona, yeah, I wasn't even like registered, so I would just take that money and run basically. I mean, I was paying like 200 euros of rent. I was living like a king. It was awesome. But of course, when you know what other people are getting paid, I won't say names, but some people were getting 20,000 a month. And you're like, well, yeah, that's would be nice to maybe get 5. I don't like look back on it in a sad way or feel like, oh, it's too bad it didn't work out or something. Like, I'm very grateful for how everything went and where I am. Technically, we were doing an analog video. We didn't know at the time. Greg had already signed like a pre-contract, apparently. I think that's what it was, with Vans to do their next video. Sometimes in hindsight, we realized he was kind of getting frustrated with us that we should be more productive because he wanted to finish that video before he was leaving, but he didn't tell us until far at the end. So he kind of left and the video was kind of up in the air because the filmer was gone, and they ended up basically making that Gravis part because Dylan had a lot of footage and he was killing it at the time. He had that minefield part, and at that point we called him Pillin for a while because he was seeing all kinds of like typical pills like Vicodins and Valiums and shit, and I was just kind of like out of it. He realized after the video came out that his part wasn't that good. I mean, it was still a good part, he's a good skater, but it could have been better, and he kind of went into like this sober phase and was like really going for it and wanted to kind of prove it. So I did the Gravis part, which, I mean, you can watch that part today and it's still relevant. I was the only one who had quite a lot of footage, so they were like, yeah, you're gonna have the next part. And I was like, great, I gotta follow the Dylan part. I have a love-hate relationship with my Gravis part because I broke my toe like twice that year and kept skating, and so you push yourself even though your body is hurt, and it's, I see so many tricks that I'm like, yeah, that was alright, but it was, could have done way better. And there's a couple good tricks in there, especially the kickflip in the end. Someone sent me a YouTube clip once, I don't know if it still exists, where it's like the 10 greatest kickflips of all time or something like that. So it's like Andrew Reynolds, Tom Penny. Somehow I was in the 10 greatest kickflips or something, which to me is just hilarious because I suck at kickflips, so. Like I always say, you need 2 to 3 good tricks in a part. People don't remember more anyway. I won the Kingpin Trick of the Year award with the kickflip, but also I won Slam of the Year. I had like a few slams and I was like, you know what, let's just make the trailer like a couple of crazy slams. Remind people of like what goes into these video parts. You know, like the classic thing when you meet someone, I was like, oh, I used to skate too, but then I broke my ankle once or I hurt my knee once and that was it for me, like I just can't do it anymore. Yeah, well, I broke my foot a few times and I'm missing a ligament in my knee and my capsule of my hip is broken and I tore my Achilles tendon and I'm still skating, so you just didn't want to do it anymore. That's fine. You don't have to tell me that you got injured. At one point they were saying like, let's do a colorway of the filter. That was the shoe I would always skate. Best shoe ever. That's kind of like what Stefan based his Nike shoe off of. I don't like new shoes, and I would always use super glue, shoe goo, hot glue, anything to make a shoe last. So my idea was, if I get a colorway, I want like a classic ketchup package that you rip open of shoe goo to come with it. People at Gravis thought that was not a good idea because that makes our shoe look cheap. I said, nope, I'm not gonna do the colorway unless it's shoe goo, and they said no, so probably not the smartest decision of mine, maybe, but once again, I don't know, sticking to my beliefs. I've never been a fan of energy drinks. When they tried to offer me some contracts, it was like, yeah, you have the, what do you call it, like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. It was like, oh, take the money, who gives a shit, like. But at the end of the day, I could never get myself to do it or sign anything. Or also some other opportunities. I could have rode for some board companies and got paid well. And from Antes, I'd get about 500 euros a year. I could have easily got double a month from a board company. But also there, it was like, well, but these are the people I'm kind of spending my time with, living with. It's just like family. Always chose friendship over money. I guess I kind of distanced myself there for a while. You know, with the fame and just meeting people, travels, was out in the States, had some really big offers from some labels. But then you know how it goes, the memories, the times we'd spent together, and they made me a quite substantial offer, so you know, I had to come back, and between you and me, I think without me, the show would have not gone on anyway, so, you know, that was it. At that point, it was the time where Jamie Thomas decided to kind of do like a Zero Europe. He hit me up saying like, oh, give me $300 or $400 a month. I was like, no. He hit me up a few days later like, no, if you also ride for Zero Wheels, we could do like 600. I was struggling a bit because, to be honest, Jamie Thomas was, you know, Welcome to Hell was like a video that I thought was really cool. So I was like, ooh, like, but then one night, I ended up having dinner with Hugo and a couple of the Antes crew. I told them what was going on. We ended up getting pretty drunk and I was like, I'm gonna stay with you guys. I love you guys. So on the way home from the dinner, I called Jamie. I can't remember the whole conversation, to be honest, because it was like, but I know there was like something in some magazine at that point back in the day where you said something like support our troops. I think it was like Iraq war and shit at the time. And I was just like, I don't think we would get along, man, because support our troops and shit like that. It's just, I don't know. And I said some things probably that were stupid. Who knows? He actually told Julian Dykmans at one point when he met him, like, well, Steve Forstner will definitely never ride for Zero. But I met Jamie like years later and I went over to him and was like, hey, like, I'm Steve Forstner, by the way, like, and we shook hands and just kind of laughed about it. And yeah, so no hard feelings there. And at one point I was maybe going to ride for Habitat because I was good friends with Stefan. But then it was a bit also of a complicated time because that's when Habitat was kind of breaking away from Alien Workshop and doing their own thing. So then it was also like, maybe it's just not right.
One day when Steve was lost, they hung him on a cross. They hung him on a cross for Steve. Damn. Here you go, dog.
I'd go visit Joe Hammocky in Phoenix, and that's where the Wedge is. We actually went to warm up at the park. I didn't know what the Wedge was. And I was like, yeah, Alex Chalmers was here already twice. Flip flew him down to ollie it for the flip video, and he didn't make it. And we're like, yeah, I don't know, it's like a pyramid. Let's try it. And like pushed at it a bunch and like feel like you're almost gonna make it, but it's fucking long. It's kind of hard to push at because you have to go through a corner and there's like a lot of cracks, and these days people have done tricks, but it's all been bondoed, and even the top of the pyramid where you land, the tabletop is like kind of sunk in, so the edge, if you deck check, you hang up, so you can't like do these kind of tester ones that you do at a skate park pyramid, for instance. So couldn't quite get enough speed pushing. It's like really hard. And then we went back to the house, and Lee Bender, and I was like, well, you know, I could like just tow you in with the motorcycle. So when you have enough speed, a pyramid ollie is a pyramid ollie. And I just remember the feeling though when you ollie and eventually you're in the air so long you feel like the board is slowly leaving a little bit, like, so you're like, oh, stay here. To me it wasn't even that big of a deal, to be honest. But yeah, for the people there and like people in the States, it was like, oh, the wedge, someone ollied the wedge. There was always the rumor this old skater Randy Colvin did it, and Joe actually like called Randy, and Randy was like, no, I never did it. He just always made the joke that you can only do it if you push Mongo, because he pushes Mongo. I would say, I think with all the cracks bondoed and that thing sanded down, take some big wheels, I think you could do it pushing. This is on the bike ride with Dylan in Bolivia. I always like this photo. It was basically John Mehring who organized it, and then Fred Gall came on the trip, Kevin Turpinning, Bobby Warrest, Nestor Judkins, Jack Sabek, John here with his poncho and coca leaves that you chew on because that helps for the elevation. But let me tell you, it's hard to skate at 3,500, 4,000 meters. And we got to do cool things like going on this bike trip, Dylan, where we started on top. And it's the, at one point, deadliest street in the world or something, because there's just dirt roads going up into these mountain paths. Yeah, it was just cool, I guess, because also that's one of the things that I enjoyed on those kind of trips, that it wasn't all about skateboarding. Did get salmonella. Actually on the bike ride, I ended up eating some onions. After you do the bike ride, it's like a 5 to 6 hour drive back to La Paz. And already halfway through, I was just like puking out the window, 10, 15, like just all the time. That's what it felt like. I almost made it back to the house, but like about probably 20 minutes before we made it there, I also shit myself already. So rough day, I guess, at the office. Where at one point I actually took my blanket and my pillow and I put it in the bathtub next to the toilet and was just sleeping there, and because I just had to get up. And then it's when like Fred Gall would come in middle of the night after being out tagging. He was super into tagging. His tag was Guitos. And he would come in drunk, coked up, like, oh shit, sorry, I gotta take a shit, and just take a shit next to me while sleeping in the bathtub. And I remember the one night, him and his friend Bulio, they went out, and for some reason Fred started to like cross out some other tagger's name. And then by the third night or something, some of his Guitos tags were crossed out and some stuff was written there. So eventually, probably that tagger with some friends found them or saw them and were chasing them through the streets. And they came like running and like ringing it, like buzzed them in, and they were like in crazy panic mode, because I feel like if you get chased by some weird people in Bolivia, it's a bit different. Paul and me always got along really well, and we always thought like, hey, we should maybe do something. Especially for Paul, I think it was an idea to like be able to be creative free and make his videos the way he wants. So started Ashes out of Paul's basement in Vienna at the time, and idealistically, we're like, we're gonna produce it in Europe. Grip tape, it's just sandpaper. I mean, so we contacted these factories, sent them like grip tape, and they're like, oh yeah, this is super easy to make. This is like low quality anyway. But the minimum for us to make would be like something like a ton. Yeah, well then we'd have grip tape for the next 30 years to sell probably at our rate. Like we can't afford that. Yeah, business, it's not always fun, let me tell you. So Ashes didn't become a huge moneymaker. After the whole thing with Gravis kind of ended, Dylan was like, hey, like just come ride for Huff. Him and Austin kind of convinced me, and I have to say Keith Huffnagel, rest in peace, very cool person. I kind of told him like, yeah, it's like I'm not the youngest, like maybe it's cool if I also be a team manager for Huff in Europe. And he was down for that, which was really cool. I got 1,000 euros a month from them, which kept me basically afloat. Maybe 2 years, because that's when Huff decided to stop doing shoes and only do clothing. I was also like on the side doing like whatever it was called, Deliveroo at the time, like bicycle delivery food in Barcelona, because it was just like easy to do that on the side. And I would like work at a youth hostel at the reception, some night shifts, and just kind of like, yeah, you know, make ends meet. And I was actually in the sense of like just quite happy with that, to be honest. I was like, cool, I'm just gonna like figure out what my next job is and what I want to do in life. And right at that time, it was actually Julian Dykmans once again, who was like, yeah, but why don't you like hit up Andrew Cannon, who was a friend of mine, who was the brand manager at Santa Cruz at the time. Why don't you hit him up about like Santa Cruz in Europe? And I was like, yeah, maybe, why not? I'll just write him an email, and good timing. He hit me up where he was like, hey, funny that quite recently we talked about how we could do things better in Europe. I ended up working for all NHS brands. I became one of the dark suits in the back room. Ends up being a lot of riders. The people I deal with are like around 90 riders. So you have a lot of texts and WhatsApps. I think it's important to kind of like keep an eye on all these flow riders in different countries. And then also, especially when the riders are on the brand, to also really like support them properly and not just, yeah, whatever, here's some wheels. And luckily Jeff Kendall was down for my idea and we kind of started that, and yeah, basically been doing that since 9 years. It's a cool job. I really enjoy it, especially because I got to help people that I could see myself in them when I was younger. It would have been nice sometimes to have someone to really help you and guide you a little. Justin Summer was like, got to become pro for Santa Cruz. I mean, like when I met him, he was blowing it technically. But he's a nice kid and he's got a good heart, so try to like help them out and convince the brands to support their ideas. But that's also something where I think it's a development probably in skateboarding that I don't appreciate so much, because there is just this whole internet algorithms, everything gets tracked and monitored. Oh, if you don't have a crazy trick or a crazy slam in the first 5 seconds, viewer drop is this much. All this stuff of like analytics counting what performs well, and I hate the word authentic content. Sometimes I want to jump through a screen during a marketing meeting, because it's like they want authentic content, but they don't give the filmer and skater creative freedom, because they're always like, no, it should look like this. We have a certain style that fits the brand, and I can understand it to a certain degree, but at the same time, you want authentic content, so you have to give someone creative freedom. At the end of the day, I'm like, but it's always been the same, right? If you do something good, people are gonna like it. Don't let an algorithm tell you what's gonna perform well, and then you basically change your style, and then you have no more style. What I enjoy a lot about the job was when you have to talk to parents of younger kids, and the parents sometimes are way too motivated these days, and always tell them like, well, your kid's in school, let them finish school, we can flow them boards, but I'm not going to take a 14-year-old on tour now and things like that. Just be realistic, like let the kid be a kid and develop. Like, it doesn't have to be this, yeah, my kid's going to be the superstar, like, and if you want that, then he's not going to ride for any of our brands. Skateboarding owes you nothing. Like, what do you mean? Like, you do it because you love it, you have fun, you get paid for it. That's insane. That's awesome. You travel for free. But like, no one owes you anything. Like, and also that's not skateboarding. That's the industry. That's like a separate thing. That's corporate. That's a job. That's whatever. So like, be careful to not mix those too much. I'm really grateful that I got to do it for 9 years, because I actually just recently told them that I'm gonna quit. So this is next month. March is my last month as a team and marketing manager for Europe. And technically, I guess that's goodbye to the industry in that sense, because I'll just have skateboarding for myself and I'll be working outside of skateboarding. I'm gonna become a train conductor for the ÖBB, which is the Austrian train line, so I'll be checking your ticket. You better have one. I met my wife 5 years ago, and then we somehow got really lucky with this apartment, and we packed our stuff and we moved here 2 years ago. It was the best decision ever. I have the lake in front of my house. I walk 1 minute and I jump into the lake. I do it in winter, ice bathing, summer, whatever. Behind my house, I have a mountain to walk up an hour and break a sweat and do whatever. And if I need, I jump in a bus or a train and I go skiing. And there's so much stuff around here. But there's also the river, the Rhine, and it's flat and you can ride your bike. And you have like pretty much everything. And life is really nice. I still like to skate, but I don't need handrails or stairs or so much stuff. I can't skate those things. And if I would, then I can't skate for 3 weeks. So what's the point? You gotta like enjoy skateboarding the way you can. And it was kind of like other things start to take more relevance. Luckily, I had one or two friends here, kind of, or people I knew, because Yama Skateboards comes from here. Started as a skate shop here. So I knew there was at least some skaters, and it's not like there's a big street skating scene or something, but there is people, and they're down to skate, and there's a little indoor park, and they're motivated to have sessions, and there's like good vibes, and it's fun, and like, yeah, so thanks to Bregenz and the good vibes here and the people who skate.
Ich fühle mich wie in alten Zeiten beobachtet. Good old times.
Ugly. Really ugly.
Switch, bitch. Flips are overrated. Disaster is my nemesis. Alles mehr Pro. Nun gibt's die Mondkarte. Dem verdanke ich alles in meinem Leben. Machen Sie mal Klick.
He just died last summer. He definitely had a wild life. When I was like still really young, he was working for casinos, like he was working for the Austrian Casino AG, and later worked like on cruise ships in the casino zone, like being a pit boss. So he knew how the system works. And with one of his best friends, they started to rip off casinos at blackjack. His friend was really good. He was a bit of a character. So he would be like, he's that kind of person who'll talk to anybody and be talking to the croupiers and be making friends, but he would mark the aces just a little bit, because back then, now casinos, they have a shoe with like 6 decks and they switch that all the time. You can't mark anything. But back then, they would play these cards long enough, and my dad would have to be somewhere. So he would give my dad a sign, and my dad would come up to the table, pretending to be like some random tourist style person or whatever, like, cool, $500, let's play this hand. And then it's like win or lose. They would have to switch casinos, and they would do different towns in Nevada, and Vegas the most because it's the biggest. Even when I lived with him later in Reno when I went to high school, they were still doing that. They did it for 12 years. That's how he lived and financed my brothers and me. And pretty insane, because my brothers and me would spend all summer with him just traveling through the whole US or later here in Europe, just in the van. And also I think that's one of the reasons tour life is cool for me, or I always enjoyed that, because I grew up on tour kind of in that sense.